So before we start this lesson, I just wanted to mention that all the Houdini trainings on my website are currently on a 25% discount all the way till May 15th. So if you're interested in any of my Houdini trainings, you can, look them up on the website. The link is given below in the description. Okay, let's get started. All right, so this is the final chapter in the grassland series. And what we're going to do is I'll create a road or like a pathway going through this, right? So like if I make changes to it, then, it should automatically update. Okay, so this isn't very complicated, but you can use this to not just make a pathway, but if you want to put like rocks and stones and, things like that, you can also take care of those things. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is, this is pretty slow because, the quantity is quite high. So I'll just come to the scatter and I'm going to reduce, like you can do two things. Like one is we can reduce the total count, or you can work with the density scale. So I'll just turn this off and it will switch on the density, and I'll just lower it down to sort of like a, like a manageable level. Yeah. Okay. So this is good. Okay. So, to get started, so the first thing we want to do is we'll create a line, and that will be our pathway. Okay, so I'll just take a line tool. Let's make it in the X direction and it will be in the middle. Okay, so we'll do copy, we'll take the length to copy parameter, go to the origin, paste relative reference divided by -2. So the line will be like, in the middle. And then I'll just increase it, enough, and I'll give it about 8 points. Okay, so the next thing is take a point jitter. And we just want to jitter it in the Z axis. Okay, so I'm just going to take the X and Y and make them 0. And then we can increase the scale. And then take a resample and set this to subdivision curves. Okay, so if I just look at this, see, there you go. So that's enough points. Okay, now we want to do a couple of things, right? Like first of all, I not only wanted to affect the the density of our grass, but we also wanted to affect the landscape itself. Okay, so what we'll do is before the mountain, like at this point, I'm going to take a, like, let me just go back here. Yeah, it's looking blue because my environment light is blue. Okay, so I'll just take it to like standard lighting, and we can take a mask from geometry and we'll mask it using this. Okay, it should show up. Hold on a second. Let's see if it's showing, why it's not showing up. There you go. Okay. So sometimes it shows up and sometimes it doesn't. Those could be errors in the view itself. Let's see if we can modify the remesh a little bit and see if it goes away. Okay, that could be a bug. Let it be. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so we have this. If you leave the mask from geometry, it stops showing it. So what you can do is we can put like a color in the middle and we can sort of visualize it that way. So I can take a color here and do ram from attribute and I can set it to mask. See, so there you go. So what we want to do is maybe just lower it a little bit, and you can kind of adjust it. Like maybe this area we want it like completely solid and then it kind of fades out like that. So, something along these lines. I really don't know why that is happening. It's weird. There's nothing here that should cause that. Okay, I'm just going to think it's a bug and leave it at that. Okay, so now what we can do is, we don't really need the color. Okay, we can actually use it later. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is this mountain sop. I want to affect the mountain sop. Okay, so we want to start off with the fact that we want a road in the middle. So the road should be lower and the rest of the area should be higher. So we're going to take an attribute at just float. I'll drop it in the middle. We'll get rid of this color node. And let's call this as road. And this will use the mask. So we'll say set always do remap attribute. And let's see if we can see the road. Yeah, there you go. And just flip it. So we'll get this. Let's try something. Let's just take a wrangle here because this is sort of irritating me. Okay. Or let's take a float. Let's take an attribute just float here. Call it mask. And we'll set it to set always. Apparently, nothing seems to have an effect on this. Yeah, it's definitely a bug of some sort. Okay, you make it big enough and it goes away. If it's small, then it starts to show up. This is weirdly irritating. Okay, fine. Let's keep it here so we're not seeing anything. This is fine. So this is the road, but what we want to do is like we flipped it, right? So what we want is like this area shall come up and this area will go down. Okay, so turn this off, like turn off the road. Take an attribute triangle and we're going to just move this up in the y-axis. So do at p dot y is equal to, we'll do at road multiplied by a parameter. Okay, so we'll do, let's call it height. And just click here. And now what I can do is if I start to move this up, you'll see like, there you go, you have a road. Okay, now, once we add the mountain, like everything is going to distort. But now what we want is we want the mountain to also show up where, you know, or not to show up where the road is. So take the mountain and turn on blend. Like on top, you'll get, in the attribute noise, you'll get a blend. And I had done this before, but default it goes to mask. Like if you keep it to mask, see it'll show up here, but we need to use the road attribute. So you'll end up getting this. See, so now what you have is like, if you adjust this mask, you'll be able to see, you know, you have a road. Okay, so this is good. Now what I can also do is with the scatter, I want to use this masked area as a density. Okay, so we can define, you know, where the points are and where the points won't be. So we can again take an attribute at just float, and this can be kept to density. And this will use road. Okay, so we'll do set always remap attribute, and this will be road. We can actually just use the road attribute there, even that will be fine, but you know, I don't know why I'm doing this, but yeah, okay. Okay, so what you can do is if you come to the scatter and I turn on the density attribute, there you go. Okay. And what you can do is if we can come here into this density attribute and maybe we can just, you know, adjust it. Like I don't want any points in the middle over here. So I can just sort of, you know, adjust that accordingly. Okay, so this is good. So if we look at the end result, it should have worked by now. But what I want to do is, one of the things I want to change is I want like the edge of the pathway should only be like small plants. Okay, like I don't want this big stuff to creep in on the edges. Okay, so what we can do is our plants are growing based on p scale, right? Our p scale is being generated here in this noise value. Okay, like if I look at this, I don't know if I'll be able to visualize it, but if you look at the p scale, yeah, there you go. See, so this is what is generating our noise value. Strangely, it shows up in the top view, but it doesn't show up in the perspective. Okay, anyways, doesn't really matter. So what we can do is we can multiply this with the road. Okay, so what will happen is the road is like 1 here and the road attribute, like it's 1 here and 0 here. And this is where it fades out. So it will automatically start giving me like smaller values on the edges. Okay, so what I'll do as a final thing is I can take a float, attribute just float here. Let's call this as road p scale, and we're going to do set always. It's setting p scale, so that is fine. Okay, and again remap attribute and pick up road. Okay. And what this will do is, because like everything should just work, if we come in here, see, so now what's happening is like this area is only small plants. Okay. Like if I remove that, you'll be able to see the difference. Like if I take this and turn it off, see, so you're getting like, you know, like any plant comes in anywhere. Like if I take this and this noise value and I start to move it around, like if I do an offset, see, so now you have like this big grass on the edges, What that does is it sort of hides the pathway, which I don't want to. But if I bring in my P scale, you'll notice, see, the big grass gets pushed away, and this is all just now left for, the small plants. So you can sort of modify this any which way you want to, right? Like if I come in here, and maybe if you make it slightly bigger, but I can sort of do something like this, or maybe yeah, okay. Let's say if you do this, when you have like a chariot or like two tracks going, then the middle sort of rises up, and you get like a track on the side. You get like two tracks on the side. So if you do this, it should give us a slightly different result. Let's see how it looks. See, there you go. You have like stuff in the middle. That's not bad. Okay, like you can do this. So we can just come in here and increase the density of the points, and we'll get a better result. Like if I just take this in the scatter and I increase the density, there you go. See, so you get like a nice little things like this. And what you can also do is if I take this line and I decide to do a carve, it will, you can sort of animate this if you want. Like I'll just turn this off and turn this on, and see if I lower it, see. One of the things that will happen is that the grass will flicker a bit. Like if I just lower this, yeah, okay, like just so that we can, see it in real time. And if I move it around, you'll see like the grass kind of keeps, rotating a bit. That's because the point count is changing continuously. What we can do for the grass is, because if I'm not wrong, we're using an enumerate for the grass, and it is coming through this, like this variant. And I think the problem here is the variant is kept to a random value. What we can do is if we change it from random to noise, it might not flicker as much. Because I think what's going to happen is the noise value remains fixed. Nah, it's still flickering. Okay, well, that's a problem for another day to solve out. But yeah, there you go. You can do something like this. So let's just take the scatter value up again. And there you go. Okay, now what I can do is, just to finalize this, I can take the ground and let's take a color node. So we can just color it if we want to. Like I can take this and let's just smoothen it out a little bit. Yeah, because that middle chunk was a little too much. Let me just lower that a little. Yeah. Maybe we can do a subdivide. Do a subdivide, but keep it to loop. That gives you a better result. Like if you have triangular mesh, keep the subdivision to loop. Okay. Now take this color node and we can set it to ramp from attribute, and we can use mask or road, like either ways is fine. And I can just set it to, let's make this like a greenish, and we'll set this to a brown. So you get like a simple road kind of a thing. Let me just increase that a little. Yeah, I think this is good. There you go. Okay. That's not bad. It's as it is going to be hidden by everything, so it doesn't really matter. But let's just take this and we can drop it down here. And let's try to merge these together. And there you go. You have like a, let's just take it this way. There you go. See. Now, if you want to render this just the way it is, it won't be much of a problem. If you just pull it into your LOP network, it'll pretty much just render it. Okay, so I'm just going to save this file and then we'll take it into the LOP network. So what you can do is just take this and take a LOP network. This is not a lesson on Solaris. Okay, so this is just to show you how simple it is to render it with Karma. You can just take a scene import or actually don't do a scene import, just do a SOP create or a SOP import. Yeah, take a SOP import and just click there and pick up grasslands. And it will pretty much just recognize this stuff as instances. Okay, let's take the scene and we'll increase the, yeah. Okay, so what I'm not going to do any materials and stuff. This is not about that. I'll just add a dome light and I'll pick up the same dome light that I've been using. So I'll pick up this one. Okay. And then just take a karma node over here and set this to the XPU engine, and keep your fingers crossed and let's hope everything works and nothing crashes. Karma doesn't really crash, it's pretty stable. I mean, even though it's an alpha, but who knows? Okay, so yeah, just come into perspective and change it to karma. It might take a few seconds to activate because it has to like load up all the geometry. But there you go. Let's just turn on the guides and render stats. Oh, sorry, I didn't turn on the karma node. Hold on a second. Yeah, it should be here. So it was still using the CPU version. Okay, so now turn on karma. Yeah, now it should hopefully go into, because I was wondering why it's, there you go. Now it's doing it properly. I was wondering why it's so slow. Okay. Yeah, we can turn that off. There you go. Okay. So I can just, like, we'll take the pixel samples up to about 128. Should be fast enough. Yeah, so as a final thing, what we can do is we can add a camera. Okay, so let's create a new camera and we'll just give it some depth of field, right? So I'll just go to karma and we'll select the camera, come to sampling and turn on the f-stop value, and there you go. You have depth of field, and we can sort of just zoom in a bit and adjust the focus. Yeah, there you go. It looks nice. When you have that much detail, everything looks nice. Like that's the nice thing about it. Like you bring in that much detail, like, yeah. So the nice thing about this entire training series is that you don't need to use, or you don't need to build all the foliage in Houdini. Like I just wanted to show it. But if you have like a library of existing foliage and you just want to sort of, use that, the idea here is that we built a system and you can just bring in whatever, plants and other shrubs and stuff that you have and just replace all of this, and it'll immediately look, much more realistic than what it is right now. Anyways, that's pretty much it. So rendering it with karma is simple. Like it's not really rocket science. I'm not building shaders. As I said, this is not really a shader lesson. But just bringing it into karma and hitting render, that's really simple and fast. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much it.